I am voluntarily putting myself under a stupid amount of unnecessary pressure just to make a point about comics. So I've been able to make 2 pages for my comic, from the thumbnails to the pencils to the inks, every week for months, and I've been able to do so with a full-time job and family responsibilities, and I've felt more energized and motivated than ever. And I've made a few videos about how I've been able to do that. But now it's time to put my money where my mouth is and show you exactly how I do it. I've recorded 4 sessions of me making my comic for my patrons, and I'm going to go through those in this video. And if I'm not able to make those pages in the allotted amount of time, then I'm going to delete this YouTube channel. Because if I can't act on my own advice, then I'm basically a fraud. Will I do it? Will this channel be deleted? Find out by watching this video and sending me money. Okay, obviously I was able to do it because otherwise you wouldn't be watching this. But this video would have really helped me a few years ago, so I promise it's worth it. And if you stick around, I'll donate £100 to the Down Syndrome Association, so you won't feel like you've wasted your time. So I have a maximum of 2 hours per session, and I tend to give myself 3 to 4 sessions per week. I also work on 2 pages at the same time, which works out at about 3 to 4 hours per page. The first session, which is what you're seeing now, is just spent thumbnailing. And something happened in this session that I'm really happy about, but worried me at the time. First, I thumbnail without panels because I find it easier and less distracting to do so. I'm not saying that you should do that, but if you've never done it before, then try it and see if it makes things easier or not. The reason I work on 2 pages at once is because by the time I finish the thumbnails on the second page, it gives me a fresh perspective when I come back to the first, which means I'm more likely to spot mistakes, things I don't like, and come up with alternative ideas. But I came up with precisely nothing. I had 0 ideas, and it was probably because I was streaming, because I've never been completely blank before. So what do you do when this happens? You do something completely different. For me, I played a video game for 20 minutes. I played a game of Heroes of the Storm, which we won, by the way, and by the time I came back to the comic, look at what happened. New ideas. It can be really helpful to do this. If you find yourself trying to force through ideas, then you may start to get tunnel vision, and so by walking away from it and doing something else, it's like a factory reset of your brain so that when you come back to it, you're more likely to come up with new ideas. Oh, and by the way, I'm counting every minute that I streamed when I tell you how long these 2 pages took me in total. So I'm including the breaks, stretching, getting drinks, chatting to my wife. Every minute counts. And I spent 1 hour, 27 minutes and 17 seconds on this first session. The next session was penciling, and I was nervous. I never ever draw well while I'm streaming because I tighten up and can just feel your judgmental eyes watching me, and I get distracted and self-conscious. So I wasn't looking forward to this one. Big respect for artists who stream their work live. But I tried to put that out of my mind and focus on the task at hand. I was on the clock after all. And the drawings went pretty well after the first 10 or 15 minutes. I actually forgot I was streaming, which helped. There's not much to say about this, it's just drawing. I used a Pencil 3 brush that I got from the Clip Studio Paint asset store, if that's of interest. I like it because it has texture to it and I feel I can draw a little more loosely with it, which I like. I also use this exact brush for inking too. One brush for all 3 phases makes the process quick and easy. Like your mum. This session took me 2 hours, 12 minutes and 5 seconds. I really did forget I was streaming and stopped looking at the clock, which is why I went over a little bit there. The third session was supposed to happen on a Thursday, but my daughter decided she didn't want to sleep Wednesday nights because bouncing on her bed was more fun. So we didn't sleep much, which meant I needed to prioritize that instead of streaming. So I pushed the stream to Friday. Fortunately, I didn't have to do much penciling as I'd done the majority of that in the second session, and I could move on to the inks, which is usually the most relaxing part of the process. But after this session was finished, I realized I was noticeably slower than usual. I was probably still feeling the effects of the little sleep I'd had that week. This session took me 1 hour, 50 minutes and 18 seconds. Now then, this was the first time I really questioned whether I'd actually get it done on time. I had 7 panels to ink in 2 hours, which meant an average of 20 minutes per panel, which is not a lot of time. So I started the stream and then immediately ignored it and just drew. I barely stopped once throughout it, which my back really appreciated. And I was able to get it done in 1 hour, 42 minutes and 17 seconds as a result. And these are the 2 pages that I drew. To thumbnail, pencil and ink, these took 7 hours, 11 minutes and 57 seconds, which is about 3.5 hours per page. Now obviously I didn't need to point out that I was able to do this little challenge because the channel is still here. I did write the intro to this video before I started the first session because I was confident in my process and workflow, but the challenge and the stakes are not the point. The point is about the unnecessary pressure that I put on myself and how that impacted my experience creating those 2 pages compared to every other page that I've created. Before every session started, I didn't really want to work on my comic. Usually I can't wait to sit down and draw, but this week it felt like a chore. And my levels of enjoyment were down and my energy levels were down too. I took longer to draw than I usually do, and I found myself second guessing my decisions. I was also making avoidable mistakes that I didn't really spot until I was inking the comic, which doesn't usually happen. All of that happened because I placed unnecessary pressure on myself. I didn't need to live stream, and I didn't need to threaten myself with channel deletion. And you don't need to place unnecessary pressure on yourself either. Quite often we set ourselves up to fail, or at least make things much harder than they need to be, by setting our expectations to an unreasonable level. We expect that we should always be able to come up with good ideas for our thumbnails, or draw without making too many mistakes, and our lines always have to be on point, or that we have to be full of energy and motivation all the time. I forced myself into a position where I absolutely had to get those 2 pages done on time, and we do stuff like that to ourselves all the time, often without realizing it. And if you do that, you'll burn out, your comic won't come out nearly as well as you'd hoped, and it may not get finished at all. So what do we do about this? I've made a point in this video to say unnecessary pressure when talking about it in this video, because I'm not saying that pressure is a bad thing. But the dose makes the poison, and if we force ourselves into a position where we're expecting greatness or unreasonable levels of consistency, or no room or flexibility in our schedules, then we're going to produce worse work and we'll end up really not enjoying making our comics. Some weeks I can knock out 2 pages in 3 sessions without breaking a sweat, and other weeks I have to extend that to 5 or 6 shorter sessions, depending on what's going on in my life. I don't know about yours, but my life is predictably unpredictable, and so I need to be able to mentally deal with the fact that sometimes the things that I have planned are not going to happen when I want them to. And if you can practice the skill of not getting too flustered when you don't feel that you're in 100% control, then you will complete your comic faster and at a higher quality in the long run, because you won't allow your stresses and anxieties to impact you while you're making it. And if you feel that you have a lack of control or that you're wasting the little time available to you, then watch this video next, because I'll show you how I'm able to maximize the minutes available to me.